What if the most spiritual, self-loving, and powerful energy you possess is the very emotion you have been taught to fear and suppress your entire life? What if your anger isn't the problem? What if it's the answer? You have been told that anger is toxic, that it is unseemly, unspiritual. But the truth is, suppressed anger is the real poison. It is the exhaustion in your bones, the chronic pain that has no name, the quiet depression that feels like a gray woolen blanket smothering your soul. For years, you may have thought you were a sad person, diagnosed perhaps with depression, with anxiety. But what if that sadness wasn't a hole? What if it was a sheet of ice, thick and gray, covering a vast secret ocean? An ocean not of water, but of fire, of rage. Rage at the violated boundaries. Rage at the unmet needs. Rage at a lifetime of being told to be small. You learned early on, a good child does not get angry. A good woman is not difficult. And so you did what you had to do to survive. You exiled your fire. You buried your roar under a blanket of snow to keep the peace, to keep the love. But the price of that peace has been your own life force. In this conversation, we are going to do something radical. We are going to give your anger its sacred name back. We will understand its three essential functions, not as a force of destruction, but as a guardian of your soul. And then I will guide you through a simple body-based practice to begin the thawing process safely. This is not about learning to be an angry person. This is about learning to be a fully alive person. And it begins by touching the fire. The first lesson a good child learns is not about sharing. It is about shrinking. It is the silent, unspoken lesson that their feelings, especially their big, messy, inconvenient feelings, are a burden to the adults they depend upon for survival. And no feeling is more inconvenient than anger. Picture little Chloe, maybe 5 years old. She has spent all afternoon building a magnificent tower of blocks. It is her masterpiece. Her older brother, in a moment of carelessness, runs past and knocks it over. It shatters into 100 pieces. A hot, pure lightning bolt of injustice flashes through her small body. Her face crumples. She opens her mouth and lets out a primal scream of rage. "You ruined it!" And then she sees the look on her mother's face. Not empathy, just exhaustion. A deep, weary sigh. "Chloe, don't scream. It's just blocks. You're being dramatic." In that single moment, a sacred contract is signed in the secret chambers of her soul. The terms are written not in ink, but in the hot shame that floods her body. The terms are simple. My anger makes the people I love unhappy. My anger is a problem to be solved. My anger is unsafe. To be loved, I must not be angry. And so she learns. She learns to swallow the lightning, to bite back the roar, to force the hot tears back up into her eyes. She learns to be good. This is not a story of bad parenting. This is the story of a culture that does not know what to do with the raw life force of anger, especially in its girls and women. We exile it. We label it bitchy, hysterical, unprofessional. And we pay a price for this exile, a terrible price. Because that energy, that pure, fiery life force,
does not disappear. As Carl Jung taught, whatever we repress from our consciousness does not die, it festers in the unconscious. Energy can only be transformed. So what happens to that swallowed lightning? It has to go somewhere. For many of us, it turns inward. Anger that is not expressed outward becomes an attack on the self. It becomes the voice of the inner critic, that relentless, cruel voice that tells you you are not good enough, not smart enough, not doing enough. That is your own anger, wearing a mask turned back upon you. It becomes depression. Imagine your anger is a powerful river of life force. Suppression is a dam. But the river doesn't stop flowing. The water builds up, and with nowhere to go, it floods the surrounding landscape. It turns the fertile ground of your soul into a cold, stagnant swamp. That feeling of heavy, numb, joyless lethargy that is so often the feeling of a lifetime of unexpressed rage. It is your own life force drowning in itself. This is the psychological cost. But the somatic cost, the cost to the body, is even more profound. Your body remembers every single time you swallowed your truth, every time you smiled when you wanted to scream, every time you said, "It's fine," when it was not fine. The energy of that unexpressed no gets trapped in your tissues. The psychic muscles required to hold back the roar are in a state of constant, low-grade tension. It is the clenching in your jaw while you sleep. It is the chronic burning knot in your shoulders and neck, the weight of all the things you are carrying in silence. It is the tension headaches that feel like a vice grip on your skull. It is the unexplained digestive issues, the churning in your gut, which is literally trying to digest emotions that were never meant to be eaten. It is the fibromyalgia, the chronic fatigue, the biological expression of a body that has been at war with itself for decades. You are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because you are and have been incredibly strong. You have been holding back a river with your bare hands. You have been containing a forest fire in your own heart. I remember a woman I worked with, a teacher in her late 40s named Maria. She came to me for anxiety. She had panic attacks that felt like a heart attack, a sudden overwhelming feeling that she was dying. She was the kindest, gentlest soul you could ever meet, never raised her voice, but her body was screaming. Through our shadow work, we discovered a lifetime of swallowed anger. Anger at a demanding father, anger at an unsupportive partner, anger at a school system that asked for more and more and gave less and less. She had never allowed herself to feel any of it. Her panic attacks were her body's desperate, chaotic attempt to finally release the pressure. It was years of stored rage finally blowing a valve. The journey for Maria and the journey for us was not to find a better way to suppress the anger. It was to finally recognize it for what it is. Not a threat, not a flaw, not a sin, but an intelligent, vital, and sacred source of energy. But what if this energy is not random chaos? What if it is an ancient guardian with a sacred job description? A guardian who has been trying to get your attention for years, not by screaming, but by the quiet, persistent pain in your body. To begin the healing, we must first change our relationship to this energy. We must move from fear to respect, and respect begins with understanding. So let us now look at the 3 sacred functions of this forbidden fire.
But what if this fire is not a force of chaos? What if it is an intelligent energy? A sacred guardian with a job description. For your entire life, you have treated your anger like an enemy. Today,
we are going to treat it like an oracle. And we are going to learn its 3 holy functions. Its first and most important job is to be the guardian of your boundaries. Think of your anger as a loyal soldier standing guard at the perimeter of your soul. It has one job: to feel for intrusions. When someone disrespects your time, the soldier feels a flicker of heat. When someone invalidates your feelings, the soldier puts its hand on its sword. When someone violates your deepest values, the soldier sounds the alarm. That feeling of irritation, of annoyance, of being rubbed the wrong way, that is not a flaw in your character. That is your guardian doing its job perfectly. It is a sacred somatic no. The problem has never been the alarm. The problem is that you have been trained to ignore it, to silence it, to tell your loyal soldier to stand down again and again while the borders are overrun. Your exhaustion is the exhaustion of this betrayed soldier. Its second sacred function is to be the fuel for truth. Anger is an energy of profound clarity. It is a fire that burns through the fog of confusion, of self-doubt, of other people's manipulations. Have you ever been in a situation that just felt wrong, but you couldn't put your finger on why? You tried to reason your way through it. You made excuses for the other person. And then one day, you felt a flash of pure, clean anger. And in that flash, the truth became crystal clear. The fog parted. You saw the dynamic for exactly what it was. That is anger's second gift. It is a truth serum for the soul. It cuts through the lies we tell ourselves and the lies others tell us. It has no patience for inauthenticity. It demands what is real. And its third sacred function is to be the engine of change. No significant change, personal or collective, has ever occurred without the fuel of righteous anger. It is the energy that says, no more. This is not just, this must change. It was the anger of those who were oppressed that fueled the civil rights movement. It is the anger at your own self-abandonment that will fuel your journey to wholeness. It is the part of you that loves you so much that it refuses to let you stay in a situation that is slowly killing your spirit. It is the energy of life itself fighting for more life. Let's go back to Chloe, our nurse. Imagine she is on her shift and a notoriously arrogant doctor speaks to her in a condescending, dismissive way in front of a patient. The old Chloe would feel that hot flash of anger and immediately swallow it. Her fawn response would kick in. She would smile politely, nod, and walk away, her entire body humming with the suppressed energy. She would go home and cry, or eat a pint of ice cream, or pick a fight with her husband about the dishes. The anger, denied its true target, would find another outlet. But the new Chloe, the one who is learning to honor this energy, does something different. She feels the hot flash. She recognizes it, not as a problem, but as a signal. Her guardian is sounding the alarm. Boundary violation in progress. She takes a breath. She does not explode. She does not yell. She lets the energy of that anger travel up from her gut, not into a scream, but into a calm, solid clarity in her spine. After the doctor has left the room, she finds him in the hallway. She looks him directly in the eye. Her voice is not loud, but it is unshakable. She says, "The way you spoke to me in front of that patient was unprofessional, and I will not be spoken to that way again." She does not wait for an apology. She simply states the truth and walks away. In that moment, she did not become an angry person. She became a powerful person. She used the energy of her anger as it was intended, to protect her dignity, to speak the truth, and to create a change. This is the crucial difference we are here to learn today. The difference between unconscious destructive rage and conscious sacred anger. Unconscious rage is what happens when the dam breaks. It is the beach ball held underwater for years, finally exploding to the surface. It is a forest fire burning indiscriminately, hurting everyone in its path, including you. It is often followed by a wave of shame and regret. Conscious anger is the blacksmith's forge. It is the same fire, but it is contained. It is honored. It is respected. It is a tool you have learned to wield. You can take the raw, hot metal of an injustice, place it in the fire of your anger, and with the hammer of your conscious intention, you can forge it into a sharp, beautiful, and useful sword of truth. A sword that you can use to cut through illusion and defend the kingdom of your own soul. For years, I believed my anger was a monster to be caged. The work was not to cage it. The work was to befriend it, to learn its sacred name, to honor its holy purpose. You are not a monster for feeling anger. You are a blacksmith who has been told your entire life that your forge is a sin, and you have been living in a cold, dark world ever since. It is time to relight the fire. But how? How do you begin to touch this fire, especially when your body has been programmed for a lifetime to run from it? How do you feel this energy without letting it become the forest fire? The answer is not in your mind. It is in your body. And it begins with a single, safe, intentional breath.
But how do we begin? How do we touch a fire we've been taught to fear our entire lives? How do we feel this energy without letting it become the forest fire? The answer is simple and profound. We cannot think our way into feeling our anger. We must feel our way into it. The work is not cognitive, it is somatic. It happens in the body, because your body is where the anger has been living all along. It has been waiting patiently in your clenched jaw, in your tight shoulders, in your churning gut. It is not an invader to be cast out. It is an exiled part of your own life force, asking to be let home. So I am going to guide you through a practice, a simple, safe, somatic release. This is not about confrontation. You will not be yelling at anyone. This is a private, internal ritual of permission, a way to open the valve just a little and let some of the pressure out so that the boiler of your soul does not have to explode. I invite you, if you can, to find a space where you can be alone for the next 5 minutes, a room where you can close the door. Your car is a perfect sanctuary for this. This is your sacred laboratory. When you are ready, I want you to close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath in and a long, slow breath out. And I want you to bring to mind a situation from the recent past. Not the biggest trauma of your life, just a small moment, a small injustice, a small boundary crossing. Maybe it was a comment from a coworker. Maybe it was being cut off in traffic. Maybe it was a family member dismissing your feelings. Just a small thing that left that familiar, low-grade feeling of irritation. Now, I want you to find that feeling in your body. Don't think about the story. Just feel the physical sensation. Where does it live? Is it a tightness in your chest? A heat in your stomach?
a tension in your hands, a lump in your throat? Just be with that sensation, without judgment, with a gentle curiosity. Now, we are going to give that sensation a sound and a movement. This is the key. We are not going to use words. Words live in the thinking brain. Anger lives in the primal brain. We must speak its language. So, focusing on that sensation in your body, I want you to allow a sound to emerge from that place. It could be a low growl. It could be a hiss through your teeth like a snake. It could be a deep, guttural hum. It does not need to be loud. It just needs to be real. Let the vibration of the sound come from the anger. And as you make the sound, allow your body to move, whatever it wants to do. Maybe you want to clench your fists as tight as you can and then release them. Maybe you want to stomp your feet gently on the floor. Maybe you want to take a towel or a pillow and just twist it in your hands, squeeze it. Let the energy of the anger move from its prison in your chest or your gut down through your arms and legs and out. Just for a minute or two, making the sound, doing the movement, staying with the physical sensation. You are giving your anger a voice without having to speak a word of attack. You are giving it an action without having to harm a thing. You are honoring the energy. Now, stop. Be still. Place a hand over the part of your body where the anger was. Take another slow, deep breath, and just notice. What has changed? Is there a little more space? A little more quiet? A little less tension? Maybe you feel a sense of warmth, or even a flicker of sadness as the ice begins to melt. Whatever is there is okay. Let's talk about what just happened. You did something revolutionary. You allowed a forbidden energy to complete its natural cycle in your nervous system. You did not suppress it. You did not explode it outward. You felt it and you released it. You acted as a conscious channel for your own life force. You became the blacksmith. This practice is your training ground. It is how you build a relationship with your anger. The more you do it in these small, safe, private ways, the less pressure will build up in the system. And when there is less pressure, there is no need for an explosion. When the next Chloe, our nurse, has to face that arrogant doctor, she will not have 20 years of suppressed rage behind her boundary. She will only have the clean, clear anger of that single moment. And that energy will not be a roar. It will be a calm, unshakable clarity. It will be her power, not her wound. This is the journey. From a state of being terrified of your own power to becoming a trusted partner with it. From a life lived on a frozen ocean of sadness to a life warmed by the sacred fire of your own aliveness. You are not a bad person for feeling anger. You are a powerful person who is finally learning to come home to your own strength.
Today, we did not just talk about anger. We opened a door that has been locked for a lifetime. We walked into a room you were taught to fear, and instead of a monster, we found a guardian. We have learned that the exhaustion and sadness so many of us carry is often the weight of a frozen ocean of rage, a sacred, life-affirming energy that was exiled for the sake of being good. We have rediscovered anger's holy purpose, to guard our boundaries, to fuel our truth, and to be the engine of our own becoming. And most importantly, we have practiced a safe somatic way to begin the thawing process, to let the river of our own life force begin to flow again,
without having to create a flood. This is the beginning of a new relationship. A relationship built not on fear and suppression, but on respect, curiosity, and conscious partnership. Your anger is not your enemy. It is the part of you that has never, ever stopped fighting for your wholeness. It is the part of you that loves you enough to burn. As you continue this practice, you will notice a shift. The chronic tension in your body may begin to soften. The gray fog of depression may begin to lift, revealing glimpses of color and vitality underneath. And your voice will begin to find a new resonance, a new solidity, the quiet, unshakable power of a person who is no longer at war with themselves. This is the deep and transformative promise of Jungian shadow work. It is not about becoming a perfect person. It is about becoming a whole person. And wholeness means welcoming every part of yourself home, even the fiery, inconvenient, truth-telling ones. So your invitation for this week is not to go looking for a confrontation. It is simply to continue the private, sacred work of listening. The safe somatic release we practice today is your tool. I invite you to try it just once this week. Find that quiet space. Connect with a small irritation in your body. Give it a sound. Give it a movement. And let the energy flow. You are not doing this to become an angry person. You are doing this to become a more alive person. You are reclaiming your own sacred fire. To make this commitment to your own aliveness, I invite you to declare it, to affirm the new relationship you are building with this sacred energy. Write in the comments below, "My anger is sacred energy." With these words, you are not just typing, you are sending a message to the deepest parts of yourself. A message that says, you are welcome here, all of you. But as you begin to welcome this fiery, truth-telling part of yourself home, you may notice something strange. You may begin to feel a sense of dislocation, an identity crisis. For so long, you have known yourself as the empath, the sensitive one, the gentle one, the peacekeeper. But a person with access to their sacred anger, a person with fierce boundaries, does that old label still fit? Have you lost your identity as an empath? Or have you, perhaps, graduated? Graduated from a label that described your wound to a skill set that defines your power. That is the profound and liberating question we will explore together in our next conversation.